2 Primarchs enter, 1 Primarch leaves. Someone's not making it out of Arks of Omen, the Lion, alive. Arks of Omen Part 5, The Lion, is the final book in the Arks of Omen series, brings to a dramatic conclusion all of the events that we've seen before. So we have Vashtor, we have Abaddon, we have all their plot against the Imperium, we have the Arks of Omen, we have all of the people who've been in it all come crashing into this final book, and we do get a big reveal and some really, really surprising results. The story of Arks of Omen, there is a gap in time between Book 4 and Book 5, but boy does it get moving fast. We start off with, strangely, a conversation between Commander Dante of the Blood Angels and his librarius. And the librarians of the Blood Angels finally figure out what a lot of these weird little mysteries were that we've seen dropped off in the previous 4 volumes. They found all these weird, bizarre things that they found on previous Arks of Omen, such as the plant-like matter. They've been scrying the stars and looking for portents and symbols, and they use all their psychic powers and they put it all together and they figure out, hey, wait a minute, the Lion's back, and we know where he is, and we have to go get him. That's how it opens. That's page 1. Big shocker there. You immediately then move over to several pages from the Lion's point of view, and what we find out is the Lion, he's just alive, and he never considers that he was not missing for 10,000 years. From his point of view, he had all of the dramatic battles against Luther on Caliban. The world is destroyed, and then he's basically a dreamlike state from his point of view, just walking in the forest and fighting monsters on Caliban. He has fought his way back into reality. He never considers that he was lost, has no memory of anything, and to him, there has been no 10,000 years of the Unforgiven and the Dark Angels on their giant secret crusade to hide their shame and the Fallen and all of that. To him, it's just, hey, I was fighting Luther and we were going to get the whole Legion back together. And then he comes back, he finds several members of the Unforgiven who, upon being in presence of their Primarch, immediately just, you're the boss. Like, whatever you want is it. And he forgives them. He's not the Primarch of the Unforgiven, he's the Forgiver. He comes back and he just forgives everybody. And he's like, you guys, we're gonna put the Legion back together and we're gonna go do the Emperor's business. And it's a huge shock. That happens, we get a cut to scheming Abaddon and Vashtor, and they have their big plan. They set a big trap. As we've seen in previous books, they're waiting on this world called Wormwood that is set in the Idolatrous system. Oh no, fantastic name there. No hanky-panky going on in the Idolatrous system. And they've set their big trap. All of Abaddon's fleet is there, and they're waiting for the Imperium to show up, as they know eventually they will. Dark Angels come screaming in to this system. They're ready to figure out, based on what we saw in Book 3 Vashtor, they're out for vengeance. They want to find out what's up with Vashtor, how he broke into the rock, and they follow him into this system. And what they find is they are stunned and stupefied as soon as their fleet and the rock drop out of real space. They come into the Idolatrous system, they find the planet Wormwood, and they find out it's Caliban. Somehow Vashtor, using the previous keys that he's put together, has built this big engine, somehow found whatever happened to Caliban. You'll remember 10,000 years earlier, after the big battle, the rock survives and Caliban is supposedly destroyed and is lost in the warp. Well, apparently Vashtor found it and has brought it back into real space and is using it basically as his home base. So as you would imagine, the Dark Angels lose it. They immediately land on the planet. They're going to get their vengeance. They're going to take it all over. They're reunited. Once they land there, they find out that the Lion is back. Now they're even further freaked out. Now they're back on their home planet that they thought was lost for 10,000 years. They find out that their Primarch is back. They find out the Lion is accompanied by a bunch of the Unforgiven. Imagine what the Dark Angels are feeling now. This is a chapter who's for 10,000 years have been hiding their secrets and trying to live up to their inheritance, and then all of a sudden they're back on their homeworld, they're fighting alongside their Primarch, and they realize that their Primarch is fighting alongside the Unforgiven and has forgiven them and expects them to be loyal as well. And they have to figure out how to deal with all these emotions in battle. Which they do. They're being beaten back. Vashtor and Abaddon are there. They're throwing in all their Chaos Marines, all their stuff. And then right when they think things can't get any worse, Vashtor basically uses his ace card. And guess who shows up? Dun dun dun. Angren shows up. And immediately both the brothers see each other and they know it's on like Donkey Kong. And then we get a big giant section where Angren and the Lion are just squabbling brothers. 10,000 years of all that stuff is all going on. At the end of that battle, the Lion wins. Lionel Johnson gets the upper hand, pins Angron down, and with the nice little bottom rounded edge of the Emperor's shield, smashes his skull to pieces. And Angren is dead. Of course, it is strongly implied he will come back soon enough, but that battle is over. At that point, a quick cut and go back in time, a few weeks. So remember how in book 3 there was something? There was the big raid on the rock that Vastor did, and he was going to get into the final room and steal the big MacGuffin. Be'lakor showed up and was like, I don't think so. I'll get you damn meddling Be'lakor later. What we find out in book 5 is what he was after. And he was after an ancient relic, an artifact that the Dark Angels had discovered during the heresy. So ancient. What this thing is, it is something called the Tucholcha engine. It is a sentient AI piece of technology. It predates the Imperium, strongly hinted that it is a creation of the Old Ones, so it's millions and millions of years old. It has an innate mastery of the warp and the webway, and it can act as an incredibly accurate navigator. You can basically jump anywhere in the galaxy via the warp or using the webway. Dark Angels, for their own safety, did not hook it up to the rock for 10,000 years. Back to what's going on Wormwood/Caliban. As Angron is being killed, Vastor teleports on board to the rock, has a conversation with the Tucholcha engine, whereas he convinces it that it's time for it to come with him and fulfill its purpose. I'll let you figure out what that means. It comes with him. It's like, sure, I'm out of here. I've been stuck in this room for 10,000 years. He takes it back to the planet, plugs it into the world. You'll remember from the previous Arks of Omen, he's stolen other big keys because he's building his big super MacGuffin engine. He plugs the Tucholcha engine into it, and at that point, Caliban/Wormwood becomes effectively a sentient world. It is all full of gears. It's very Transformers, world, planet, sentient being kind of a thing. And as it is coming alive and becoming sentient, all the Imperial people know we got to get out of here. Dante, Azrael, the Fallen, all of them have to join forces to get off the planet safely. They do. And as they get off the planet just in time, they get onto their fleets, they skedaddle towards the edge of the system, and then the thing that almost never happens in Warhammer 40,000 finally happens. It's probably the biggest thing since the Great Rift has happened, is Abaddon wins. Arks of Omen comes to a conclusion with the Imperials flee off the planet, and as they turn around, they see the most horrible thing ever, which is Vastor and Abaddon get this whole planet to come alive and work, and then they execute their master plan, which is the entire planet teleports itself into the webway and is gone. And it takes all of Abaddon's fleet as an honor guard with it. So Abaddon is in the webway, his entire fleet is in the webway, his flagship, the Vengeful Spirit is there, the planet, Vastor, all the demons, all of the legions, all of his people. They are now in warp space and apparently can go wherever they want to at will. The Imperial fleet is shocked, and as the forces of chaos move into the webway, Abaddon leans over to Vastor and says, now that we have the key, we can find the lock. And once we find the lock, that gets us to the weapon. Ooh, ominous music. The good news for the Imperium is that the lion's alive. The entire Arks of Omen series comes to a conclusion. The Inquisition receiving a sternly pressing letter of the events and the video captures of what happened in the system and thinking, well, okay, the lion's back and we don't know what that means, but that's going to be interesting for the Imperium. And 2, Abaddon just won, and he has an entire demon planet that is in the webway doing something. They're going to be back, and this was probably not a good thing that happened for the future of the Imperium. Ta-da! That's the end of the story. Obviously, this is the end of Arks of Omen, so the story is complete, and what we found out is that we have a 5-volume book. This is actually much closer to Rise of the Primarch that came out at the end of 7th edition than it is to Psychic Awakening that came out at the end of 8th. We have a nice encapsulated story here. This is basically, I think, leading towards something big that's going to happen that they're going to expand the narrative on, and there's 2 basic things going on. 1, the lion is back, so that's a big, huge deal, and I think that's going to play directly into the, now there's 2 loyalist Primarchs who are alive. It was one thing when Guilliman came back and he was by himself and he's like, hey, I'm the Primarch, so of course I'm just gonna take over and run the Imperium. But now there's 2, and if you've read all the Horus Heresy books, the Lion and Guilliman, they're not enemies, but they have very different views of kind of what the point of the Imperium is and how it should be run. Those 2 are not just going to show up and shake hands and everything is going to be fantastic. There's going to be friction there, and that's going to be really interesting to see what they do with that thread moving forward in 10th edition. The other thing is that this is a major, major chaos victory. The last time we saw one of these was when Abaddon won and created the Great Rift that cut the galaxy in half. Now he has some type of planet that he's going to enter the webway with that he clearly has a plan for. And we're going to find out in 10th edition exactly what that plan is. This is, of course, an Arks of Omen book, so all of the rules sections of it is exactly what you would expect. We have yet more boarding action rules. We get the last 4 armies that were not covered in the game, which is Custodes, Leagues of Votan, Thousand Sons, and Agents of the Imperium, rounded all out. So we get those, and then 18 new missions for boarding action. So again, all boarding actions all the time. Unlike some of the previous books, this one does have a datasheet section in the back, which is a pretty good one. You get the Lion's rules are in there, Dante's rules are in there. They've collated together a lot of those kind of rogue trader Agents of the Imperium datasheets that have been coming out over the last year or so in various, mostly kill team box sets. So all of the 40k datasheets are collected for rogue traders, for things like the Voidsmen and the Voidsmen at Arms. Adeptus Arbitus are in there. So all that kind of Agents of the Imperium stuff that are kind of scattered around and didn't really have a home, they're all in this book as well. This is book 5. If you're here, if you've bought the first previous books of Arks of Omen, you're all in. Go ahead and pick it up. You want the story to be complete? This is a big one. This is who should buy this. The exact same people who bought, the Rise of the Primarch trilogy and who bought Psychic Awakening. If you want the lore and you want to know what's going on and where that part of the Warhammer universe appeals to you, absolutely. All the rules sections, now that we know 10th edition is coming and it has been officially announced, Games Workshop has specifically said on the record, boarding actions will be valid. They're part of 10th edition. All those rules are safe and they are completely written with 10th edition in mind. All of those rules are good to go. Very, very good for a whole bunch of different types of people. Also, you get the data sheets for the various things in there. That's probably the least interesting part of the book because we know 10th edition is coming. Those 9th edition data sheets have a very, very short shelf life. That was Arks of Omen, The Lion, Volume 5, and it ended with a roar. I'm Larry from Bowles, and if you want to find out more about the Arks of Omen series, click here. Or here. Have a great one.